cornmeal pancakes, vanilla ice cream, and fried chicken so crispy you could hear it from the Oval Office. Welcome to the secret food obsessions of America's commanders-in-chief. If you think you know anything about our presidents, prepare for your history books to be flipped upside down. And if you're just a casual history buff, buckle up. You're about to discover why these powerful men would sometimes skip important meetings just to satisfy their cravings. From Washington's humble hoe cakes that became a colonial sensation to Kennedy's chowder that transformed. From fisherman's fare to diplomatic delicacy, here are 10 presidential food obsessions that reveal more about these men than their speeches ever could. Number 10. George Washington. Hasty pancakes for a hasty life. Step into the rustic kitchen of Mount Vernon in the late 1700s. Here, the very first president, George Washington, begins almost every day of his revolutionary life. These weren't just any breakfast cakes. Washington's beloved hoe cakes emerged golden and crisp from the hearth, their edges crackling with a satisfying crunch, while their centers remained tender and warm. The rich aroma of cornmeal mingled with the sweet scent of honey or the savory smell of melting butter as servants prepared this humble yet sustaining meal. Washington's dedication to this simple dish reveals something profound about the man himself. These unpretentious cornmeal pancakes reflected the character of someone who, despite his elevated position, maintained connections to America's agricultural roots. Furthermore, as Washington led a new nation, this modest breakfast became symbolic. People throughout the colonies started calling it George Washington's breakfast. For this reason, the hoe cake represents more than just a meal. It embodies the accessible, straightforward qualities that defined America's first leader. Number 9. John Adams. Farm to table before it was cool. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, a different culinary tradition was shaping another founding father. John Adams, our second president, embodied loyalty not just in politics, but also in his dining preferences. The heartwarming smell of a New England boiled dinner would have permeated Adams's household with a rich, comforting aroma of slowly simmering beef, pork, or chicken. This was no ordinary meal. It was a celebration of regional identity in every bite. The tender meat fell apart at the touch of a fork, while vegetables from Adam's land, potatoes with earthy sweetness, turnips with their slight pepperiness, and carrots adding bright notes of color and flavor created a harmonious blend of tastes and textures. Additionally, Adams insisted on locally grown food, a stance he maintained even during his presidency. This wasn't simply about taste. Each spoonful of Adams's favorite meal represented his unwavering connection to his homeland and agricultural heritage. In the same way that Adams stood firmly for his political principles, his culinary choices declared his allegiance to the soil and traditions that shaped him. Number 8. Thomas Jefferson, the sweet tooth of a founding father. Now let's talk about the real glow-up moment as Jefferson entered the White House. A more sophisticated culinary wind was blowing through the presidential dining. However, despite his reputation for complexity, it was a simple pleasure that captivated the third president's palate. The cold, silky smoothness of French vanilla ice cream became Jefferson's diplomatic contribution to American cuisine. After experiencing the frozen delicacy during his time in France, Jefferson couldn't leave this culinary treasure behind. Consequently, he brought the recipe back to America, forever changing the nation's dessert landscape. Jefferson's ice cream wasn't the light, airy confection we know today. Instead, it delivered a dense, custard-like experience with profound vanilla richness that lingered on the palate. The vanilla beans imported at considerable expense released their exotic fragrance as the frozen treat slowly melted in the mouth, creating an experience as memorable as the Declaration of Independence itself. Above all, this indulgence tells us something crucial about Jefferson: his willingness to embrace and introduce foreign innovations while adapting them to American sensibilities. Just as his politics sought to balance democracy with refinement, His dessert preference bridged European sophistication with American enthusiasm for new flavors. Number 7. James Madison, a taste as rich as Virginia soil. Despite his small stature, James Madison possessed an appetite that spoke volumes about his connection to Virginia's agricultural heritage. This founding father, known for his intellectual contributions to American democracy, found culinary satisfaction in something profoundly regional. The fourth president's dining tables frequently showcased Virginia ham, a delicacy with a flavor profile as complex as the Constitution itself. Each slice offered a symphony of tastes, intense saltiness balanced by subtle sweetness, with smoky undertones that lingered long after the last bite. The ham's texture told its own story, firm enough to hold its shape, yet tender enough to melt away with each chew, the result of careful aging and smoking techniques passed down through the generations. Yet here's the twist. Madison wasn't simply enjoying a popular dish, he was championing a culinary treasure that represented Virginia's agricultural prowess. His preference helped elevate this regional specialty to national attention, essentially turning Virginia ham into one of America's first food ambassadors. As a result, what began as local delicacy became a symbol of American craftsmanship and tradition. To this day, Virginia ham maintains its prestigious status, carrying forward a legacy that Madison helped establish through his distinguished palate. Number 6. James Monroe, the spoon-bread mistake that became a masterpiece. Following in the Virginia tradition, but charting his own culinary course, James Monroe embraced a dish born from innovation and improvisation qualities that mirrored the young nation's spirit. One day in Monroe's kitchen, a happy accident transformed ordinary cornmeal mush into something extraordinary. What emerged was spoon bread, a dish that straddled the line between bread and pudding. The golden crust concealed a moist, soufflé-like interior that quivered slightly when the serving spoon broke its surface. Each bite delivered warm, comforting cornmeal flavor wrapped in a substantial and delicate texture, neither too dense nor too light. Initially, this culinary misstep might have been discarded. However, Monroe's appreciation for this unexpected creation led to its regular appearance at his table. Eventually, spoon bread became more than a side dish. It transformed into a symbol of Southern culinary ingenuity. In the same way that Monroe navigated the challenging waters of post-revolutionary American politics, his favorite dish represented adaptability and resourcefulness. From a mistake emerged a masterpiece, proving that sometimes the most beloved traditions arise from unplanned moments. But first, what's your presidential food obsession? Do you crave comfort foods like FDR's grilled cheese when you're making big decisions? Or are you more of a sophisticated foodie like Jefferson with his imported ice cream? Let us know in the comments. We'd love hearing about what's on your plate during your power moves. And if you're hungry for more historical food secrets, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more delicious presidential revelations like this one. Number 5. Andrew Jackson, sophistication with a Southern kick. Step back to the early 1800s, when the White House welcomed its most rugged occupant yet, Andrew Jackson, the fierce-tempered military hero with a reputation for duels and determination, surprisingly possessed a palate more refined than his frontier image suggested. The aroma that frequently filled Jackson's dining room came from his favorite indulgence, tenderloin with Jezebel sauce. This wasn't just any meat dish. The tenderloin, cooked to a perfect medium rare, surrendered its juices at the slightest pressure of a fork. But what transformed this dish from ordinary to presidential was the accompanying sauce, a bold Southern creation that danced between sweet, spicy, and tangy notes. Furthermore, this Jezebel sauce embodied contradictions like Jackson himself. Apple jelly provided sweetness, while horseradish delivered an unexpected heat that lingered on the tongue. Mustard added complexity and a depth, creating a flavor profile as multifaceted as Old Hickory's personality. This sauce, named after a biblical figure known for her boldness, seemed particularly fitting for a president whose administration never shied away from controversy. Additionally, it demonstrates how even America's most rugged leader appreciated the nuanced balance of flavors that would later become a hallmark of Southern cuisine. Number 4. Abraham Lincoln, a quiet love for corn cakes. Lincoln, the man who navigated the nation through its darkest division, found comfort in a dish as unpretentious as its beginnings. Corn cakes represented more than just sustenance for Lincoln. These simple golden discs, crisp around the edges but tender at the center, connected him to his Kentucky and Indiana upbringing. Their slightly sweet cornmeal aroma brought momentary escape from the overwhelming pressures of a nation at war with itself. Not only that, Lincoln's preference for his modest fare speaks volumes about his character. Despite rising to the nation's highest office, he maintained an unaffected appreciation for straightforward food. While other politicians might have embraced elaborate cuisine to display their importance, Lincoln found satisfaction in dishes that reminded him of his authentic self, reminding us that sometimes greatness comes wrapped in simplicity. Number 3. Theodore Roosevelt, a fried chicken devotee. The turn of the century brought Theodore Roosevelt's boundless energy to the White House, and with it, an appetite as robust as his personality. The dining preferences of this conservation champion, Rough Rider, and larger-than-life president matched his vigorous approach to everything else. Roosevelt's favorite Southern-style chicken wasn't just a meal, but an experience. Each piece featured a crackling, golden exterior that gave way to juicy, succulent meat beneath. The distinct aroma of seasoned flour hitting hot oil permeated the White House kitchen whenever this presidential preference was being prepared. Eventually, the accompanying white gravy, velvety and peppered with black flecks, completed a plate that satisfied even Roosevelt's legendary appetite. Yet this distinctly American comfort food represented something deeply personal for Roosevelt. Despite his patrician New York upbringing, his time in the American West and South created an appreciation for heartier regional cuisine. Therefore, each bite connected him to a diverse American landscape he so passionately championed throughout his presidency. Number 2. Franklin D. Roosevelt, grilled cheese in the White House. Meanwhile, as America navigated economic depression and global war, Franklin D. Roosevelt found solace in perhaps the most democratic of comfort foods, the humble grilled cheese sandwich. This presidential favorite wasn't elaborate by any standard. 2 slices of bread embracing melted American cheese. The exterior transformed into a golden landscape of buttery crispness. The sandwich's warm, gooey center provided a simple pleasure during extraordinary, complicated times. In addition to satisfying hunger, it delivered the familiar comfort that even a president sometimes needs. Furthermore, FDR's choice carried unintentional symbolism during the Great Depression. At a time when many Americans struggled to put food on their tables, the president's enjoyment of this accessible dish, often paired with tomato soup, connected him to the everyday experiences of citizens. It wasn't caviar or champagne that appealed to the man guiding America through multiple crises, but rather this unpretentious combination that any American might prepare. Make no mistake, there's something profoundly revealing about a leader who could find contentment in life's simplest pleasures while shouldering the nation's heaviest burdens. Later, as wartime rationing affected American kitchens, the president's long-standing appreciation for straightforward fare reflected a shared national experience of making do with what was available. Number 1. John F. Kennedy, chowder by the coast. By the 1960s, American cuisine was expanding its horizons, yet John F. Kennedy's palate remained anchored in his New England heritage. The youngest elected president brought youthful energy to the White House, and with it, a distinctive regional preference. New England clam chowder represented Kennedy's Massachusetts roots in every spoonful. The creamy, ivory-colored soup was thick enough to coat the back of a spoon, but never gluey, and delivered maritime flavor in each bite. Tender chunks of clam and potato created textural interest throughout, while the subtle brininess evoked the Atlantic coastline that shaped Kennedy's character and recreational passions. At the same time, this wasn't just any regional specialty. Kennedy elevated this humble fisherman's fare to diplomatic status, making it a frequent feature at state dinners. Born from the practical use of abundant local seafood, became an ambassador for American regional cuisine on the world stage. After that, Kennedy's fondness for chowder became so well known that the White House kitchen developed its own signature recipe. To this day, Kennedy chowder remains part of Americans' culinary lexicon, demonstrating how presidential preferences can transcend their time in office to become cultural touchstones. Wow, what a flavorful journey through history! Which of these presidential meals would you most want to try? Or did we miss your favorite leader's signature dish? Drop your culinary opinions in the comments. And if you're hungry for more historical insights, smash that subscribe button. We've got plenty more presidential secrets coming your way.